Hello everyone and welcome to today's Facebook Live. My name is Christine Gutierrez and I just got off of a flight. This was supposed to be at 9:30, but what was I thinking? Making a Facebook Live series when I just finished my retreat and I had to travel from Puerto Rico to New York. Don't ask me. But I'm grateful that I'm back. I got caught up and that's why we're starting a little bit later. My apologies about that. I literally completely forgot because I got so excited. I haven't seen my dog Bodhi in like a week and 2 days, and I just was squishing him and went to go walk him. And yeah, I completely forgot that I had to do a Facebook Live because I missed my little muffin puff. But I got so much great feedback from the first part of this 3-part Facebook series, How to Stop Hating Yourself. And I loved seeing the emails on, just to give you a recap, the first video was all about bringing to the light those things that are in the darkness, the ways that you abandon yourself. And if you know a little bit about my work, then you know that I'm all about diving deep into the wound and getting the wisdom from the wound. And if you're new to my work, really my approach is about tapping into that root so that you can heal, and heal at a real level, not at the surface, but deep inside your bones. And all the work that I do is all about coming back home to yourself. And we leave home, meaning our inner home, when we abandon ourselves. And we abandon ourselves when we do things that hate ourselves, aka things that go against our soul. And so when we're acting out of alignment with that love, we are hating ourselves. And so the first part of this video series, which is here on my Facebook page, was really about just getting conscious about the ways that you hate yourself, getting conscious about the things that you do that are acts or a violation towards the self. And we talked about some of those examples being, going back to relationships that don't serve you, staying too long in things that don't serve you, whether that's the job or a friendship or a marriage or a certain pattern or behavior of not taking care of your body, eating junk food when you really want to start eating healthy. Really, these are the ways that in overt and subtle ways we abandon ourselves. Maybe it's just not giving yourself enough time to be still with yourself, right? Sometimes we think that abandoning ourselves are these huge things, and they are, right? Like staying in a toxic marriage or, staying in a job that doesn't have passion or purpose. But it goes beyond the bigger ways of abandoning yourself. It could be small things that you do, like not make your bed in the morning, which was one of the things I mentioned in the last webinar. It can be small ways or subtle things like not taking enough time to appreciate nature, not taking enough time to listen to music that you really love, not dancing enough, not finding stillness and joy and beauty in small moments. These can be also ways that you subtly hate yourself and therefore abandon yourself and leave your soul home. So your soul home is that place of center. It's that place of peace within you. And when you hate yourself, you do the opposite. You abandon your home. You go out looking for everything other than the one thing that's going to give you true peace, which is coming back home to yourself. So one of the things that Megan Watterson had learned from someone else, and she taught me, was this beautiful kind of mantra that I have now begun to say in every single one of the things I do, which is I call myself back from all time and all places. I call myself back from all time and all places. I call myself back from all time and all places. I am here now. And I love that because it literally reminds me to take me back from the past, from the future, and come back home to myself now. And for me, coming back home to my soul home is the epitome of love, of self-love. And when we're talking about how to stop hating yourself now, what would be the goal would be to love yourself. And loving yourself seems too abstract and seems too fluffy. Like, just be happy now or just love yourself now. It's quite more complicated than that. And so that's why I really like the idea and the concept of this soul home, because it's really integrative and it's going to be different for every single woman or man. It's going to be different And it's going to change depending on where you are in your life. What might make you feel really peaceful and happy today might not make you feel peaceful and happy tomorrow. So you have to be willing to be in flow with the things that light you up and make you feel like you love yourself. So in the first part of this 3-part series, as I said, we got real and we got honest about the ways in which we are abandoning ourselves, aka hating ourselves. In this video, I want to talk about tools or ways to find your soul home. So when I say soul home, I mean SOUL home. And once we got real about the ways that we are hating ourselves, I also want to get honest about the things that light us up, because sometimes when we've gone so far away from our soul home, we forget the ways or the things that actually make us happy, because we're so consumed in that pattern, in that paradigm of toxicity, that you quite literally close the door on the light, you close the door on the love, you close the door on listening to the voice of your soul, you close the door on the voice of your intuition. And when you do that, you forget that your soul and the light is always there. So we've explored the root and the darkness and the ways that you've hated yourself, whether they're subtle ways or bigger ways of abandoning yourself, which is the same as hating yourself. And today we're going to remind ourselves, what are the ways and the things that actually bring you joy? Because when you get consumed in the darkness, you forget that the light is always there, that the joy is always there. And we need to remind ourselves. So this list is going to be, what brings me back home to myself? What brings me back home to myself? So this can be a place. For me, when I go to Puerto Rico and I just got back, I feel present. I can cry at the joy and centering that I feel. I feel at home. I feel rooted. I feel in my skin. I feel embodied. I feel present. I feel in flow. I feel spontaneous and creative and full of joy. And so Puerto Rico would be on my soul home list of things that make me feel centered and loving of myself, right? Another thing is my dog Bodhi. I rescued a puppy, for those of you that don't know. Well, he's a dog. He's 1 year old and 10 months. I rescued him from someone that wasn't treating him well, and it was the biggest blessing of my life. And playing with him and just throwing him his favorite toy, his chipmunk, and feeding him and taking care of him really makes me feel connected. Being in nature, in the beach or around animals, wild horses. I was just in Vieques for my 6th annual Diosa Goddess Retreat, and just seeing the wild horses and the greenery and the plants and the water in these beautiful beaches just reminds me that God exists and that I am part of something amazing and that I'm being guided. Some other things are a good book. One of my favorite books, Clarissa Pinkola Estes wrote it, Women Who Run with the Wolves. She talks a lot about this concept of your soul home. And actually today, not knowing that I was going to mention this, but I read a part of Women Who Run with the Wolves, and she said this part that I wanted to read today, which is this right here. So let me find it. This sound, that violin, unlocks a place in me. I thought I was locked up good and tight forever. So Clarissa Pinkola Estes goes on to talk about how she went to this prison and she had someone playing the violin. And this woman who was one of the inmates said, this sound, that violin, unlocks a place in me. I thought I was locked up good and tight and forever. And then Clarissa Pinkola Estes says, my heart broke on itself, but in a good way. For I saw that no matter what had happened to her, she could hear the cry. She could hear the cry? Well, no. She could hear the call. That's what it is. She could hear the call from over the sea. That call from home. So what Clarissa Pinkola Estes is saying here is that no matter how far away we stray, even when you're locked up literally in prison, there's still a part that can unlock the soul, the light. And when you unlock the soul, you find love, true love of self, which is again the opposite of hating yourself. And that it could be that sound of the violin. It could be this free series right now with me talking that says something that resonates deep in your soul, that wakes you up, that unlocks something in you, that reminds you that you are worthy, that you are loved, that you are deserving to make changes, to take time to say no, to leave that toxic relationship, to leave that job that doesn't serve you. There's moments and things that unlock the soul and that allow you to hear the voice of your soul. So you're never too far away to hear that, because your soul is always present, but just sometimes you can be numb to it or lock it away in a door and not open it. But today, I encourage you to open up that soul gate. If you've had it numbed, let these words resonate in your spirit, and don't listen with your head, but listen with your heart, and allow it to drop in and say, yes, that is the truth for me. I know that I'm worth more than this, because your soul speaks. So again, I want you to write down, what are the ways that your soul gets happy? And if you don't think in terms of what makes your soul happy, think about some happy things that might make you happy, like being around puppies, or being around babies, or getting a really nice manicure and pedicure, moments where you eat good food and you're laughing, moments where you share a synchronicity with someone and you're like, oh my God, me too. Those moments that just light you up and make you remember that life is good, that there's a flow, right? So think about that and make that list. And again, the reason why we're doing this is because we need to remind ourselves and prepare ourselves to interact with our soul on an everyday basis, so that we can fill our life with more joy and love and soul, and steer away from self-hatred and walk into more self-love. And the only way that I know how to do that is through the soul. So the soul way is going to be your compass, is going to be your guide, and having things that light you up really make all the difference. So write them down now. I'm going to read something else that I found in Clarissa Pinkola S's book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. And she says, a woman's soul speaks. Injured women, so women that are disconnected from their soul, women that are attached to that darkness, perhaps because of the traumas that they've experienced or the traumas that they've witnessed in their life, that self-hatred oftentimes attracts dark men and things that hurt them. And eventually, you need to ask yourself, for how long do I want to stay in this situation? For how long and at what cost? Because everyone needs to learn lessons, and sometimes we need to learn the hard way, but for how long? Because when we stay too long in something, a woman always knows. People know when you're pushing it too much, when you're staying in that relation too much, when you're staying in that relationship for too long, when you're doing that thing over and over again enough times that you're just like tired of it, right? Like that's where that self-hatred breeds. Well, your soul is waiting for you to pivot and listen to her. And just like that example that Clarissa Pinkola Estes shared about her visit to the prison, where she had someone play the violin and the woman said, this sound unlocks a place in me I thought was locked good and tight forever. Like, how beautiful is that? That woman in the prison, although she was shackled, the biggest shackling was her soul being shackled, because that's what brought her there. That self-hatred that maybe someone did to her, because their soul was locked up and their parents' soul was locked up, and they were living from this place of darkness and ego and retaliation, that the biggest tragedy was that her soul was locked up in a prison, and that led her to that prison. So when our soul is locked up, that's what leads us to the bad relationship, to overstaying something that doesn't serve us, to being dry and withered, right? In this story, returning home to oneself in this book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa speaks about that, the story of the seal skin. And it's like the skin that reminds us, it's this archetype of the seal. And just like a woman, we need to wear the skin of our soul. And when we don't have the skin of our soul intact, we're acting from a really dark and wounded place of self-hatred. And so this webinar today, this Facebook Live, the second part of the Facebook series, is dedicated to finding what lights up your soul, returning home to your soul self, and writing down a list of the small things and the big things that make you feel in alignment with wearing the skin of your soul, so that you become intact and not abandoning of self, but instead occupying every single space within yourself, because you're returning home to yourself. So this is all about returning home to yourself. So my homework for you, your soul work, is going to be to really sit with yourself and take a moment and journal what makes you feel home within your body. What makes you feel like you've hit that point of peace because you're returned home to yourself. And this is really going to be all of the answers that you need. Though not easy, it is simple. Though not easy to make these changes, it is necessary, because living a life without your soul leads you to the darkest, shadiest, and most numb, miserable, empty places. And I know if you're on this webinar, it's because you want to inhabit yourself. You want to love yourself. You want to heal from self-hatred, and you want to find peace. And so I encourage you to take the time with your soul, to get to know the voice of your soul, to ask her, if you've numbed, what makes you happy? What lights you up? Because I know for me, like I shared I feel so happy doing my Diosa retreat. Like I am literally filled with divine energy. Like what happened this weekend was so magical beyond words. Like I can't even describe it. But leading those retreats and doing ritual really makes me feel my soul. Speaking to my soul makes me feel my soul. So taking dedicated time to have a conversation with my soul makes me feel more connected to her. Being in nature, as I said, being in Puerto Rico, listening to Native American flute music, live music, dancing, free and wild, being in sand, connecting to like-hearted people. All of these things are things that light me up, bring me that Shakti, bring me that creative spirit, bring me connection to my soul, and make me come back to myself. So now I want you to do the same for yourself and to explore. And I want to hear from you. So send me an email, christinegtv@gmail.com, and let me know all the ways that you're discovering that makes you feel connected to your soul. Because we did the heavy lifting, and you can continue to do that if you feel like you need to like kind of unearth some of the darkness a little bit more. This is a process, so it's not like A, B, C, although this is a 3-part series. It's life, and it has ups and downs, and you can return to something as often as you need to. And actually, I would encourage you to do that. So the first part was, again, about exploring the darkness and the ways that you hate yourself and abandon yourself. And today, the homework is all about the ways that you come back to yourself and inhabit your soul and come home to yourself. And we have the last part of our 3-part series. And again, if you're on the 3-part series and you signed up, great, because you're going to get to keep these recordings. But if you haven't signed up, I'm going to include the link. It's christineg.tv/stop hating yourself now, so that you can be on the list, and then you get to keep these videos, because I'm going to delete them from this Facebook page. So make sure that you opt into the website so that you can keep it. And tomorrow you will get a new newsletter if you sign up for the list, letting you know what time the free webinar will be. And the recording will be live on the page for another week. But make sure that you sign up so that you can get it and it doesn't disappear. So I want to hear from you again. christinegtv@gmail.com. Let me know the ways that you come back home to yourself. If you haven't emailed me the ways that you hate yourself and abandon yourself, I want to know that too. And know that you should be really proud of yourself for even doing this work, because like that story, all you need is one moment to unlock that voice of your soul and hear the voice of your soul. You're never too far away, and it is your job to come back home to yourself over and over and over again. I thank you so much for joining me on this free series. Thank you for understanding my crazy traveling brain and playing with my dog and coming later onto this Facebook Live. But I'm really glad that we had this conversation, and I'm grateful to each and every one of you, and I encourage you to come back home to yourself and make it a priority to do the things that make you come back home to yourself, because that's the only way that we can heal from self-hatred. So I love you all so much, and I will see you tomorrow in the last part of our 3-part series of Stop Hating Yourself Now. Mwah. I'm gonna go get some nice rest and some tea, because as you can tell, my voice is shot from speaking so much at my retreat. But I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye.